Hey guys, long time no see. Um, this time I'm here to talk about a movie called Frozen. It's written and directed by Adam Green, who did Hatchet, which I haven't seen, so I will not, say much about it except that I know people that really liked it, and there's a lot of people that hated it. But as for this movie I'm about to talk about, Frozen, I have only seen really like positive things about it from the few people that have seen it, and I'm right there in that camp. I actually liked it more than most people I know who saw it. But anyways, what it's about is it's a really simple premise. It's a low budget horror movie. Some people would say it's like a more like a thriller or like a survival movie, but it has a lot of elements of horror, and it's basically you could tell it's like this director that wants to take horror into the real world and see how scary that can be. And what it's about is three college kids. They go out skiing, and they go up for one last run, and no one knows that they're up there really, and so they shut off the ski lifts, and these kids get stuck up there on the ski lifts. That's the premise. Three college kids stranded on a ski lift, and they realize it's Sunday night, and the resort that they're at it stays closed the whole week. It's only open on the weekends, and so they highly doubt that anyone's gonna come get them. So their cell phones are back in their lockers because they had this thing about like leaving the real world behind when you're going out skiing. That's like the whole point. So they left their cell phones in their lockers, and they're sitting there 50 feet up in the air on a ski lift, and a storm's moving in, and it's getting cold, and there's wolves down below. That's the whole premise of the movie. Doesn't get anything more than that. There's no killer lurking in the woods. There's no evil bad guy, but it is, I think, one of the scariest movies I've seen. My stomach was in knots throughout most of it. I really was. I was just like, oh, ugh. And it's not just because it's like an intense movie, but because, and this is what made it great, is because I started to care about the characters because they are real, fully developed characters. And if you get anything out of this review, it's that the characters and the writing for their characters and the acting are what makes the movie work. They're what makes the movie, I think, a great movie, and that's like what made me love it. Um, there's not too much to say because, as I already told you, it's a really simple premise. They're stuck on a ski lift. They know they're gonna die, and they have to figure out a way to get out of there. If I start going into detail beyond that, I'm gonna be ruining the movie. But I mean, just very scary and very sad because, like I said, you get to care about the characters, and they feel like real people. I did a written review. It's like it kind of reminded me of the Blair Witch Project, where like what drew me into that was it felt like these real college kids that you might know or you might hang out with. You might see yourself in some of them. I certainly saw myself in the main one of the main characters here. His name was Joe, who was like the third wheel. It's basically a boyfriend and the girlfriend and the boyfriend's friend, Joe, and like you know he feels like he kind of misses his friend and stuff, and they don't see each other as much anymore because he has his friend has a girlfriend, and that plays into the whole story. And yeah, but like in the Blair Witch you had like the documentary style or whatever that kind of even brought you into it further, and the very natural acting that made you feel like they were real kids. Here it's more just they're well developed characters that make they feel like people or yourself, or that you are, or and you know there's a couple scenes that I think make the movie great and just make the movie in general. And one of them is just a scene where they're getting desperate and they're trying to think of things to talk about to take their mind off of being stuck on this lift. And it's just a scene about hey Joe, why don't you have a girlfriend? And it's just a really touching and poignant scene. There's a lot of the, there's like a lot of sadness in the movie, like the shots of the ski lift and the way the music plays, like this really sad like piano score that plays through it as things get more desperate. Um, that it just like I just showed it. I just watched it for a second time with my ex, who were still friends and shit, and like I asked her, what did you think of the movie? She's like, it made me sad. And I go, did you think it was scary? She said, yes. So it's a sad, scary movie, and it's very intense. Um, and even more so because of you care about the characters. If these were like your standard cardboard cutout, like teenager kids or something, instead of like fully developed college kids that have real lives, real histories and friendships, and you could tell that stuff went into the writing of the characters. They feel like they're real. That makes it worse when you see the death and stuff that happens. And in my written review, I said, the movie's gory, and it's one of the reasons like I would categorize it as a horror movie. There's been a little bit of debate about this and stuff. I think probably it went into one of my buddy Chris's reviews, talking about whether it's a horror movie or not. And one of the things that like I pointed to that made it horror is it's there's gore in it, but on the second viewing, when I watched it tonight, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, there's gore. There's absolutely gore in it, and there's things that just like, make you oh. But really, the gore is very. They don't show it too much. They show it very quickly, or it's very minor things, like getting like frostbite, and your face starts to peel off, and it's grounded in reality. But I think like when I saw it the first time, the reason I thought it was so gory is because it is so brief with it, so that you're filling in what's happening with your mind, which is just that's something that's in a lot of great horror movies, is that they show you almost everything, like the shower scene in Cycle. They show you almost everything, but you fill in the last part, and they do that here very well. And to me, I've always had this like feeling that like if the movie's scary, if it's about things that scare people, then it's a horror movie. Uh, Thrillers are more just kind of edge of your seat. Yes, there's an element of like fear in it, but they're not the main thing. And here, it really is about the fear of dying in a horrible, horrible way, and that's primarily what it's about. And there's gore, like I said, a little bit, and the music plays like a horror movie at parts. Yes, there's the sad piano music, but then there's the violins and the intense like scary music, and then you have these animals lurking down below that want to eat you. And Adam Green, the director, finds horror in really like mundane, small places, but that you're like, oh man, that could happen, and oh my god, what if that happened to me? Like just little things like you're sitting there so long that you have to piss yourself, and you're sitting in a puddle of your own piss, and you're humiliated, or you fall asleep against a pole or something like that, and maybe it's a cold surface. It's not going to be good for your flesh. So I think it is. I mean, there's room for debate on this, but I want to say it's a horror thriller, and as a horror thriller, I think it's one of the best, man. I really went for it. I should probably mention that this is my cup of tea. This is the type of movie that I love. Um, Sort of in the same genre maybe as Blair Witch slightly, where it's people getting stranded in a really simple, low budget, simple situation, and the horror comes from the characters losing their minds and losing their hope for living, and just the thought of being in that situation, how scary it is. And I've always had a morbid fascination with death, and I'm deathly afraid of death, and that just, I mean, it worked on me big time. I watched it first by myself really late at night, and I was just sitting there like, oh god, and at the same time really caring about what happened. And just like by the end of it, I was like, that was really fucking well done. The acting was really good. The writing was really good. The characters were well written. You cared about the characters. I'm like, I'm going through my mind. I'm like, you really couldn't do something like this better than what it was done. And the fact that anyone thinks that you could do like three kids sitting on a ski lift for 90 minutes and make it work is a bold move in the first place. And the fact that he did it as well as he did, and on like a small budget, but like with good acting, good cinematography, good music, it just kind of elevated the way I felt about it. I just was like, this is a really good movie that people need to discover, and I think will get discovered. And it's better than most horror movies or most thrillers. If you, I don't care, categorize it either way you want. It's better than most of either one that you'll see. Most most weeks if you go to the video store, whatever movies you get from Netflix, you're not gonna see a movie as good as this, and especially on such a low budget. So it's just something about that like I was like, it's like when you see like a good Kevin Smith movie, you're like, damn, there's someone making a movie for me, and it feels special. There's just something special about it, and so my score kind of shot up on it. Like I was thinking maybe 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5, and I was like, you know what, screw it. It's a 5 out of 5. I gave it a perfect score in my written review, and I think maybe it doesn't deserve it, but we're splitting hairs here. Okay, I'll give it 4.5, but no, I'll give it 5 because I thought it was a really special example of its genre, and I loved it. So what else do you really need? It gets my full support, and just because it just felt like I said, it felt special, and it feels like one of those movies that people will talk about years from now, like, oh, did you ever see that movie where the kids get stranded on the ski lift? Oh, you never saw it? You gotta see it. It's amazing. Like if it catches on, which I think it will by word of mouth. I think more people are gonna listen to their friends who see this, and they're gonna see it, and they're like, yeah, that was pretty fucking good. And it's a movie that'll stick in your head. It'll linger in your mind. So for that, I mean, I'm giving it my full endorsement. Check it out. I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you're interested in a movie where it's like horror, thriller, survival, you know, against the elements, against nature, something like that, I think you're not going to see many movies better than it. I thought it was scarier than Jaws. I thought it was scarier than a lot of movies I've seen, and at the same time heartbreaking and sad, and just really, like, again, well written. Like that, my heart went out to the characters, and I liked them, and I wanted to see them get out of it, but I also wanted to see, oh, what the fuck, this nasty shit's gonna happen next. So if you're a fan of horror movies or just good independent movies that do a lot with a little bit, I say give this one a shot. I hope you like it. I hope you get back to me and let me know what you thought about it. Who knows when I'll be back? I've been a little sporadic lately, but we'll see. Um, Anyways, so 5 out of 5 for Frozen, a movie I think you should definitely see. Talk to you guys next time.